That's funny. I can't see my eyes, but the camera
What's up,
can.
profitable stylist? Here we go this week. We got Bernard is back. We are going to be talking about some fun stuff today. I want to make a quick announcement. We have a 5 technique class now that we are offering. The 5 techniques is the she bonded strand keratin bond extensions, the tape in, the she fusion tape in extension method, the on-stage flat beaded wefts, the flat beaded strands, and the flat beaded toppers. So all 5 of those techniques will now be taught in the same day. You'll be able to become a specialist to be able to offer all service needs to the client. Okay, and if for those that are interested for more information and more details, there's the link in the description below. Go ahead and click on that, fill out the form. That will get you in contact with us, and we'll be able to talk it out some more. That is the culmination of everything we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks to bring you to become that 6-figure stylist. With that said, Bernard, it's so great to see you again. You got
Missed last
slammed
week.
last week, man.
We got hit by Hurricane Ida pretty hard. I mean, lucky for me, there was no damage to the house.
Good.
But our house is about a year old, and we did cut down all the trees that were near the house in preparation for something like this. And thank goodness we did, because there's quite a few trees down on my property.
Oh, wow.
We were out of power for quite a few days, living off of a generator, and the gas lines were hundreds of people in line because so many people were trying to get gas for their generators and for their vehicles. And some people were saying, that's what I'm trying to tell my boss. I can't come to work because I can't even get gas for my car. So it was interesting. And again, just like when the pandemic started, the grocery stores ran out of toilet paper and paper towels again. I don't know what that's all about, but the toilet paper and paper towels, until this day, quite a bit of food's missing. Like, there are no eggs in some of the grocery stores around here. People were prepping, and now after, they're all starving. And we're back to a lot of people left town, and so then when they got back, they're all hitting the groceries because all our refrigerators went bad. So we had to throw everything away and start from scratch. Nice, clean, shiny fridge. Some people follow me on Facebook. You could see I came home early with my dog, and my wife and son went to Disney World. So they had a fun week. I was cleaning up and spent every day with the dog. Couldn't leave it home in a hot house, so Casper traveled with me everywhere. He'd go cool off in the pool. It was a good bonding experience for me. That dog just thinks I'm his best friend now. When I left for work this morning, he was trying to get in the truck, and my wife saying, "No, Casper, you're staying home." So listen,
it's really it's I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad everybody's happy, safe. That's awesome.
So I'm sorry for missing last week, but we had no power, and I was just, I don't know, not sleeping as well on a blow-up mattress in a small room with a window unit. And I told Eddie, I think we had just got power and internet, and I probably could have barely made this happen, but I just wasn't up to it. So I thought about today, though, something I do in my salon personally to train a new stylist or this is really neat. And I go through this list, and basically it's taking one mannequin head. I didn't even bring a mannequin head here, but you buy one mannequin head. It's got long hair. And I want to talk to you about how efficient I am with that mannequin head and how I train a brand new apprentice coming into my salon who's never done hair before, or a very seasoned and everything in between stylist that knows how to do everything. But you know how in a salon you kind of want to get everybody on the same page, and maybe you want everybody to shampoo similar or do a foil highlight similar, so you can kind of trade customers a little or ask for help or have an assistant. And when you get that help, especially that shampoo, when you get that help, you'd like the customer to feel some sort of consistency in the salon. So I'm going to go through this list that we do. I think we're going to make it a downloadable file or something down in the description, but just a really quick look at everything I go through. I have it here, and we check it off as we go through. And it starts with a real basic shampoo. I want everybody to shampoo the same. And I'm going to go through the list, and we'll kind of stop and talk about some of them. But just to give you a kind of a summary of what we do, is yes, we cut this mannequin, we color it, we highlight it, we do some styling, and we basically are starting with quite a few long styles, and keep cutting it as we're doing other things, medium styles, short styles, till we get right on down to shaving the head at the end. So that's the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
We actually shaved. There's an art to shaving any head. I don't think a lot of people realize, but that clipper blade is flat, and you're usually clippering on a round surface, and so people just don't get close enough to the head with the clippers on those edges, and they don't realize they got to kind of either do this or just keep going around the head. And you know what I'm saying? It's crazy to me.
I've nicked my buddy a couple of times giving him a zero fade. I've you got to learn. You got to learn somewhere, somehow.
Well, even just the point that flat blade, when it's on that rounded head, cuts closer in the middle and not right there. And and too many stylists think that is a full clipper pass, and then they move over to here for their next pass and do like that. And this section here always stays a little too long. It's not even. So you have to have a good visual, a good little feel, a good understanding. I wonder if they'll ever make clippers with a curved surface. But there are some flat surfaces on the head, so we need the flat part too. So you just have to learn how to use that. I love that we started at the end. I even read a magazine. I even flip through a magazine from the end first. But let's jump back to the beginning to keep this proper. Okay?
Fair enough. So what's the first step to getting a new shampoo? Well, first of all, there are many different types of mannequin heads too, right? So we gotta talk about that. The mannequins can range in price. You can get a cheapy one for $20-$30. You can get a mid-grade one nowadays is considered to be approximately $60 to $80 is considered like a mid-grade. And then anything over $100 is what they call that premium mannequin head.
Why? Why would you pay more for a mannequin?
So you'd pay more for a mannequin. It has to do with the quality of the mannequin head. The hair, not the head itself. So every mannequin, the hair gets punched in a big row. It looks like a cornfield, and because it's hand stamped in. So if you get the cheapy hair, half yak or half camel, it's a 70-30 blend. It's 70% human, 30% animal hair, right? That's your cheapy stuff. That's your throwaway mannequins, as we call it, your practice mannequins. The more human hair one, the lower quality human hair one is considered mid-grade. That's usually an 80-20 mix or a 90-10 mix, or it's 100% human, but it's low quality human hair. And then the more expensive one, the premium mannequin, is 100% human hair, good quality human hair. You can actually color it. You can actually do updos with it. You can actually put iron work to it, and it won't melt or burn or make that stinky, wet dog hair smell.
And you notice when you look at a mannequin's scalp, it looks like the hairs are like a quarter inch away from each other on the cheaper ones, because they're using a larger diameter hair. Yeah. And by the time they've implanted or injected, and you grab that ponytail, if they put them any closer together, it'd be just too much hair to be considered the average person's density of hair. So like Eddie's saying, the more expensive mannequins have smaller diameter, matches with most Americans' hair. Different countries, different ethnicities are going to want different mannequins for different reasons. But for somebody with a European descent or even African American in this country, we have about the mid-grade to higher end. The higher end mannequin is going to, like you said, mostly be if you're going to be doing color and you want some better results with your color. But for us, we do use the very cheapest mannequin because I'm just going through some basics and I'm kind of doing it fast, and we're running through sometimes 2 or 3 heads if I've got a brand new person and I want them to get a feel for everything. I don't mind if, to me, it's not about the actual, quality of the color at the end of the service. I'm more looking at application technique when they're putting color on the base, the roots, whatever you call it, that you're kind of keeping it off the scalp so much, off the forehead, off the ears, off the nose. And I don't know how they get color. Oh God, it just drives me crazy. It's like, why does that lady have color down the side of her face? Are you trying to color her beard? Are you trying to make her peach fuzz look like stubble? So that's
isn't that rouge or blush or something? Isn't that what that is?
Oh, just on one side, or it's long hair and that hair
Hey, it's
slapped across the
asymmetrical,
face.
okay? It's a fashion, it's a style.
Yeah, it could be. So the very first thing we do is we talk about the shampoo, and I'll hold the mannequin head by the neck, put it in the shampoo bowl, and have them shampoo it. I'll actually have them shampoo my hair to it. I mean, I love a good scalp massage, so it's my favorite part of the training. Let's start off with a terrible shampoo because everybody shampoos terribly at first. I find even people that have been stylists for 4 or 5 or 10 years out there, nobody really teaches how to do a good shampoo. I was so lucky. I had an older lady, Miss Betty. I'll never forget her. And she said, she sort of told me like it was a secret. She said, Bernard, come here. She goes, you're real. I even saw you lean in just now. She said, Bernard, you're really catching on to this haircut thing, and you're doing a pretty good job with the relationship with the clients. You really want to keep those clients and increase the tips? I'm thinking, yeah. I mean, I'm wondering what secret is she going to tell me? She said, let's improve your shampoo. I said, really? She said, it's not about getting the hair clean. That's really easy. The shampoo, the water, a little bit of movement. But people really care about a scalp massage.
Mm-hmm.
Push with your fingers on that head and go a little faster, more rigorous during the shampooing and slow down, but still a lot of pressure, almost like a massage during the conditioning treatment if you do conditioner. And she encouraged me to do it most of the time, even if it was a light conditioner, even on a man, because that massage, I started getting, and this is 30 years ago, I was getting 20, 30, I even got a couple of $100 tips from a scalp massage during a shampoo. I mean, I felt like a prostitute. I'm like, that $100 is way too much money. Of course, I got all the inappropriate comments. Also, I want to take you home with me. Will you marry me? Will you come over every morning?
Yeah, the
But
moaning and the yeah.
you don't make money in school unless you're getting tips. And so that changed my life. And then when I went into the salon world and realized no hairdressers shampoo that good, that was like the foundation first when I wasn't that good at anything else. I wasn't that good at cutting. I wasn't that good at styling. But damn, could I do a shampoo? And people came back for that, even if I wasn't good at cutting. So as I increased the skill level on all the other things, I started to realize the little golden nuggets in each little situation. And we won't go take this long on each step, but I'm going to go into the next step real quick. One length haircut. I think a lot of people kind of think, oh, I could just do that at home. It's just this, right? Well, I start to watch this, and I'm going to throw a couple things out there real quick and then let you comment. The very first thing is, I mean, if the hair on the head right here, it doesn't move much when you look up and down is the first thing I tell them. But the hair on this part of your head moves. When the hair's hanging down here, when you look up and down, it moves 3 to 5 inches, depending on how much you move your head. So that's the stacking of the layers at the bottom of one length cut. So do you want to, I know I got this computer on a new stand and I get so passionate. I'm hitting the table and I think everything's vibrating. But where they have their head, and then so often, just the very first time, I'm like, cut that one length. Even on a mannequin, on the tripod, I have it leaned down a little bit. And I watch them go to cut. And I wish I had scissors in my hands right now. But the very first thing they do for some reason is angle the scissors one way or the other. And usually it's up, where it's almost like cutting a graduated cut right there on it. Now, sure, if the head's looking down a little and they do that, and then they look up, it's going to kind of fix that. But why add graduation in to start with? So just the angle of the scissors or shears, can make a huge difference in that finished look. So those are the little things that I'm just trying to kind of perfect along the way. Anything you want to throw out there about
mastering a one length haircut on a mannequin head is really powerful. The whole thing, everybody says, oh, in school. But out of school too, even as a seasoned stylist, being able to practice in nowadays, I mean, people are blown away when I say I practice every week on my mannequin. I have a mannequin at the office. Well, I got 1,000 mannequins at the office. I have mannequins at home. I am constantly practicing, even though I'm still doing behind the chair. I'm still practicing. The one length haircut will teach you body position, will teach you hand position, shear control, right? On a mannequin, the neck, the skin doesn't move. So what you see
Right.
is what you get. That's it. So if you can make a level line on a mannequin, when it comes to a person, the minor adjustments are become so much more simplified. And that's really what it is more than anything else. The other thing about the one length haircut, if you got a mannequin that's got longer hair, you'd be surprised how many people will not push the stand up. They'll start crouching down, and then they're on their
Yep.
knees and they're doing one of these things and trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff. But
Right.
then that becomes muscle memory. So now when you're at the salon and you have your client in the chair, I see so many people, they're doing this.
Yes.
You know, you're gonna
Or
bust your
spreading your
back,
legs.
man. You can.
Or spreading the legs way out there.
Oh
to
yeah,
get-
they're doing the splits. I can't do the splits. I'm not gonna even attempt it. But yeah, so that's the whole thing about why one length haircut is so important. It really teaches you, it really teaches you control more than anything else.
And it's where everything gets started. Do you have the right fingers in the? Hey, listen, guys. I like to say scissors mostly because we're a little bit of more of a worldwide company. And when you're in Europe and you say shears, which a lot of Americans like to hear, in most of the European countries, they think shears sound silly because that's what they shear sheep with. And so their scissors are the fancy word for hairdressers. Here, we like to say our shears because scissors, we say, is what you cut material with when you're sewing. So forgive my words, okay? I'm just wanting to cover
It's
the
all
comments before I
relative.
even get them. It doesn't matter what you call them. Those cutting things. Why don't
It's
you
your
just
cutting tool, right?
use an axe, a machete, fire, like
Could definitely
comment
YouTube
on
that.
yeah, YouTube that and comment on those videos. So I'm going to go through a few of them and stop me if you want to talk about one of these real quick. Some of the things we do after I do a one length haircut, I do a little. We just dirtied up the scissors a little bit. I literally go through a little bit of scissor cleaning and maintenance, how to clean and oil, because so many people will go months without it and they wonder why. Maybe I can't shut them anymore. Maybe I need to loosen them. No, maybe you need to clean the gunk out from between those two blades. Even just a good hosing at the shampoo bowl with some shampoo and then maybe even a little alcohol to clean up the gunk and then oil before you even ever have to take them apart. That's just shampooing, drying, oiling them will make a world of difference. It's crazy. I even show them what they should look like when you take one open and let it drop, how tight they should be. I mean, that's kind of all personal opinion and something you might want to go over if you're teaching or going through the program. But even if you don't think you know much about hair and you hire an assistant, like if you go through my Stylist Journey videos and you're like, I am at that point where I need to hire an assistant, this is a good list to go through. Just makes you look a little more professional. Also, you can take a mannequin and you take one whole day or 2 whole days to go through this over a couple of weeks. Or as I do, we do 1 or 2 hours once a week over a few weeks, depending on how good and fast they are. We don't rush through this. And each time they do something over here where it says completed, I have them check mark. Every time they do something, check, check, check. And they might have to do the same thing, like the shampoo. They might have to do it 4, 5, 6, 7 times until I sign off or date it. That's when it's completed. So some of these steps are done more than once to get it right. Some you can't do too many times when a mannequin has no more hair, but the shampooing at least can be done over and over. So then we go into round brush under, since it's nice and long hair and there's no graduation. We blow dry and round brush under, angle the blow dryer, how to hold the brush, not blowing the hair back towards the head, frizzing it up. We go through a foil highlight parting. I know there's 1,000 ways to part hair, but I do go through a basic parting procedure, just 5 sections of parting for foil highlighting, and I literally have always done that for me. That top section might move a little left or right depending on the part, but I always did the exact same parting. I don't change it up. I don't complicate it. And then we go to doing a foil highlight application. So the next thing is going to be, I've got on here long layers.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
The thing with foiling too, don't discount. This is going to sound kind of weird. This current generation of hairdresser doesn't know how to foil. It's interesting. This current generation of hairdresser that is getting produced.
Unless you're watching this, you probably know how to.
Well, but I'm not making fun. Now, I'm not saying an age thing. I'm just
Right.
saying hairdresser in general. The ones that came in now came in at the peak and height of balayage. So
I
they're
see what you're
being,
saying. I
yeah.
see what you're saying. There's rolling trends. Well, you know what? I was a part of this terrible cycle also. When I was in school, that whole you got to think you're a hairdresser for many many years, but you're in school for 1 to 2 years, somewhere around 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in school, nobody even was doing foils yet 30
Mm-hmm.
years ago. We were pulling hair through caps, and the advancement in the highlight world was the thinner one layer plastic cap. It was a sun glitz cap. That's what we did, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I was doing hair another few years where foils came out, and that's where the continued education comes in. I was scared. I was like, how in the world am I gonna do
Yeah.
this?
And that's,
And
well, that's
I
why the
do.
mannequin is so important because, yeah, same thing. When I came in, or when I went to school, rather, I should say, they were just starting to transition in foils. Half the instructors didn't even know what they were doing. And right now, it was all ombre and balayage. So
About that, right? So
yeah, the
the so
last classes, the last, the only reason why I realized this is because the last two classes that I taught last week, uh, three stylists in each of those two programs were like saying, how do you, what do you mean with the foil? What do you do with foil? Why do you use foil? I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? But then it started making sense.
So, now that you've said that, I've got a new stylist in the salon, fairly new, a few months now, very experienced, very good. People are loving her color and her highlights. She's getting this platinum color that all the girls are wanting right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the lady who cleans our house. She heard about her. She's like, "Oh, I heard you have a new stylist. She wants to get in with her." She said she's done my daughter's hair, my granddaughter's, my other granddaughters. She goes, and she wasn't completely happy. And I was like, "What's up, Dinell?" And she said, "This is what I wanted." She grabs, "This is what I wanted." She's showing. Oh wow, I got a lot of text. So anyway, she's showing the phone, and I loved seeing it because it's what I first learned foils on. It was thick, bold, blonde, brown, and I know what's going to come next: blonde, brown, red, or blonde, red, brown. And so I said, "Oh, you want a bolder, chunkier look?" She said, "Yes," and she just won't do it. So I talked to Vivian, and she's like, I don't understand why she would want that. It's funny. I'm like, God, you're a great stylist, great at weaving, but never learned this. So we went over it a little bit. I said, it's
Mm-hmm.
slices on top of the head. It's thick, bold slices. And she's making this face like, are you sure? I'm like,
Yeah, right, right,
I
right.
know.
Why would you go near the scalp? That's for shadow rooting only. What's wrong with you?
And she's like, it's going to get on the scalp. It's going to color her roots, right? She's thinking of
Yeah.
just fine. She does fine baby highlights, and they're beautiful. So this is totally the opposite, and she's having trouble. Like, how do you wash out color and bleach on a foil without them bleeding? I was like, that's a great question because that's a big problem. You have to start rinsing as you're pulling foils out to
Mm-hmm.
stop that from happening. It's a whole new learning experience.
Flip that to the seasoned stylist. So now that's the new stylist, right? The seasoned stylist, they used to make the little Christmas packets. They'd fold it, and then fold in the sides, and it'd be like this little square thing. And that's
Yeah.
not the style anymore. You got to let the bleach and the lighteners breathe. So now
Right.
you're just doing fold over once, and that's it. You're calling it a day. So how do you control
And
that
it's
from
much
sliding,
faster.
bleeding? Yeah, doing all that crazy stuff, right? That's why the mannequin, practicing on mannequin, is huge for that.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. I didn't realize we'd have so many side stories here. So, of course, the first thing we do is next we get back into a cut. You've got to shampoo the foil highlights out, whatever they are. So then I go into long layers because we're just layering a little bit at the bottom. And they're how much? I mean, you can do a little to a lot, but it's basically just layering a little bit up at the very bottom. And then since it's layered at the bottom, I get them to blow dry flipped up. And so often over the last few years, I get, why are we doing this? Nobody wears their hair flipped up. I say, girl or guy, how famous do you want to get? How much hair do you want to do? First of all, you might do some old ladies that are still wearing that, or you might go onto a movie set. I mean, the movie industry was in the New Orleans area here for a while. Louisiana was given the tax breaks, and I was called to a movie set for hair replacement. But if you want to get on a movie set and you're doing period hair, you've got to learn how to do hair from any decade in the past. And so, or the made up future. So you might have to flip some hair up, and you got to learn how to do that. And that's difficult. I mean, everything is going under, and all of a sudden they got to revert. Maybe you still blow drying on top for here, but right at the end, you got to learn how to get that blow dryer underneath, not blow it towards the head, have it coming towards you, curling it up, and getting it to cool and lock in, using the right products.
Yeah, not have that cuticle blow out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun for me to just kind of go over the different ways to do hair. And I'm not saying I love all the old stuff because I hate finger waves, but I can do them because we had to do them in school, And here, the next one, I don't even do, never done. You guys have heard me before, updo. But about this time, before I lose too much length, but I got a little bit of layer on the hair, I have somebody, either call somebody in, have a friend or somebody in the salon, kind of go over updos and some basics of updos. Do you put a little curl into the hair first? Do you prefer your customer to come in unwashed? Some are like, come in dirty. Don't clean it right away. A little extra product in the hair helps it hold. I hear all kind of weird, crazy stuff. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't do them. But I throw it in my training because everybody should have at least some basic understanding of the updos in my shop other than me. I gave up on that. That's one I'm not going to learn. I even went to a Jacques Desange class in New York one time. And I okay, updo, but then I decided this is definitely not for me. Too much work. So then I go into what I just call, hey, listen, so I don't use the fancy names and words. I did go to a Paul Mitchell school, but I don't go like Paul Mitchell, Redken, Nevada, or any of the specific schools where they have these made up names for their cuts. I did have a pivot point system, and so it was a little just more basic of one length, layered, graduated. Basically, they said those are the 3 haircuts. Any 2 or 3 or combination of those or every other haircut in the world. And so I kind of still believe that. You just marry a couple of those techniques together, change some angles a little, and you can do almost anything you see in a picture. But really, there are lots of cuts that are not named or described that you just have to look at a magazine and figure out.
The advice that was told to me a long time ago, everything old becomes new. One must know the history to visualize the future. And I thought at the time, like, what the hell kind of drunk ass conversation are we having after the show right now, right? But fast forward now, it's been like maybe 15, 20 years ago since I was told that. It's Nicholas French, actually. He was the one that told me that advice. And every time I've done a show with him, it's been absolutely amazing, because he would always tell me, look, this is the look we're creating now. This is what it originated from. This was its purpose. This is how we've modernized it now. And this is what it could become moving forwards. Yeah. And if you've been a hairdresser for more than 10 years, you're already starting to see things come back.
Yeah.
It's not that long. There's not that big of a gap when the mullet right now is coming back, for the love of God.
Strong too. Yeah. I almost mentioned it when I was saying haircuts. You can say mullet, but there's so many versions of the mullet.
There's modernization's version, but at its core, when you go to build that out, you have to know how to do a mullet. Right.
You do. And it's funny because one of our customers, my son took over doing his hair replacement, and he's a dentist. And I said something about, yep, so-and-so, I can't name him because he got mad. I said, yeah, so-and-so had a mullet when I first did his hair, when I first started hair replacement about 30 years ago I started, but he came in around 25, 26 years ago. I was into it a couple of years. And he comes in the next week, he sees me in the hall, and he goes, I got a bone to pick with you. And I was kind of half joking, but he was serious. He said, I did not have a mullet when I met you. Yes, you did. Clearly. I said, you know what, Doc, maybe you don't know what a mullet is, but he had a mullet. When I got married to my first wife, we got wedding pictures to prove it. I have a mullet. It's nice and wavy and curly back there and about this short, maybe a little longer.
Style.
It was the style, right?
Style.
So the next thing we go into is regular layers. And I say regular. I mean, there's so many names for it because to me, after long layers, you can just decide on how much layer you want. And I kind of talked to them about where the longest layer is and where the shortest layer is and where they come from on the head. A little bit of geometry going on here, because I think that's the more important thing, is that the hair that comes from the bottom of the head and the hair that comes from the top of the head are what make the long and the short layer. And you just determine on how far apart and how much layers go on the head. And a lot of that's pulled straight up on top of the head, and then the angle that you cut here, or where you pull the hair. And you can do it all in one big section, or you can do it in multiple sections. And my MO is all about shortcuts that don't take away quality. I like to try to comb or brush all the hair into one place and do one cut and then fine tune it a little bit. And I know a lot of stylists either have small hands or don't understand the whole picture there, and they need to do it in a ton of little vertical sections or horizontal sections and bring it all to the same point and have a guide. Forget the guide. I just pull it all in one place, one big chop, or one long cut, like a big giant mohawk section. So I'll pull all the sides up, cut in the middle section, and then the back. And so it's pretty much, there's no guide. It's all at one time, but I know where the shortest layer and the longest layer is going to fall. And then I'll frame the face, get rid of some of the trouble that happens from that. But that's kind of my process or method of teaching.
No, that's the mannequin head. That's the beauty of the mannequin head. When you're new, you're automatically doing disconnected haircuts because you're not good at cutting hair yet. When you're seasoned, you have to remember that it's okay to do a disconnected haircut. And then mannequin head, it's beautiful. You could do look, you got 45-degree angled layer, 90-degree angled layer, all 180, the 135 and then 180. Right. Like that's it. Everything else, invisible, divisible, hidden, floating, all the different names for different layered haircuts. It's all
where the
based off of that.
Came from? Have you ever heard of the 3-layered cut? People come in and say, I want the 3 layers or the 4 layers.
My wife give me the staircase, she says.
Oh my goodness. That came from some bad haircuts.
Yeah.
But people saw it, said, oh, that's cool and different. I want it too. And I'm like, oh no, that wasn't on purpose, but that's okay because that's kind of how things are created. But when you pull all the hair up and cut it up here symmetrically and it falls, you know what's showing down here? The points on the head here. Mm-hmm. This shape here is showing down here, and people don't get it. So literally you're seeing the bangs, and then it goes in here. So that's where you're missing a section. And then you're seeing this section fall in the middle, and then you don't have any hair here because of the ears. And so then this section here is falling lower. That's what gives you the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then people want to recreate that terrible haircut that didn't get blended or fine-tuned at the end. And I guess there's no right or wrong, but at first I was like, that is so messed up. You don't want a mistake, but they do. And that's okay. Creation, I guess. There are no mistakes, just creations.
Yeah, just creations and visual interpretations.
Yeah. So here's a blast from the past. I don't know, it's kind of coming back. Color application with a bottle. I know some people are doing their semi and demi and thinner toners with a bottle because it's fast and easy. But there's a couple of companies coming back with liquid to gel type of colors. I loved the Redken color gels for a long time. It isn't quite a liquid, but it's pretty liquidy. But it's not a tube at all. And so in the hair replacement world, we would take a hair system when it was off of a person's head or a human, 100% human made wig or hairpiece or something. It was a lot easier to color it in a bowl of color that you already pre-mixed. It was a little bit more liquefied. So I was slow to switch to tube color for a long time because I was doing color with a bottle on people. I could apply. I've got the color in the bottle upside down and just run it. I didn't have to take a brush, go back to a bowl, back to the head. I know that's the more professional way, but to me it was much slower because I can just keep squirting lines and spreading with my thumb, part with the bottle, bring it back, squirt. I'd part with the bottle, squirt as I'm coming back and running that, and I'm doing the next part. It's like, it was just like all the way down the side so fast. And I watch people use a brush and a bowl, and it's so slow. But I can see where some people think that looks more professional because they say, the customer buys a box color at the grocery store with a bottle, and then you just squirt it all over to him, put it all over. Well, that's not how I'm applying it, but I get the argument. Same thing about
that's a whole nother look. We're going to do color one day, Bernard. I keep poking you. We're going to do color one day.
You know what? I'd like to do it soon because you know what I just thought about that I like to do? That kind of, I'm going to give a little hint. We're going to do it next week. My wife in the salon in the last couple of days, she says, so I don't know what happened in the salon today. I said, what do you mean? And nobody's wrong. This is what I love about this. I said, the problem is they're all right, but the newer girl is totally blown away because 3 different people told her how to do the same thing 3 different ways. She said, she's got longer dark hair. She goes, my ends are starting to fade. I need the color pulled through today. And the new girl's like, what does that mean? She's newer. I'm like, what? Did we not cover that? Or did you forget? Okay, maybe my failure. But anyway, I thought everybody just knew what that term meant. Pull the color through. And so my wife, as a non-hairdresser, typical customer, but living with me for so many years, she feels like she's got some of the lingo. She said, well, just some of the leftover color at the end, I need you to pull through just to darken up my ends a little because they're starting to fade. And another girl goes, oh, no, you can't do that because that's permanent color on your ends. We need to use the Reckon Shades EQ. And we need a semi-permanent or demi or temporary, whatever you call it. And then the other girl goes, oh, no. You're using Wella color, so you've got to use the Weller color touch. That's their semi, but you can't mix lines. And then the girl's like, and my wife was wanting to just pull the color through she already had on her head. So she got 3 different ideas to do. And she goes with the one that was like the most adamant about, no, this is the way you got to do it. She goes, okay. And I was like, there was none of those answers were wrong, depending on how you do them. And I thought that would be a good topic to cover. And I'd like to throw in there, what is and how do you use deposit only color? Like, what is color compared to color that a lot of men are using or women could use deposit only compared to semi and demi? Let's riff on that next week. I'd love to talk about that.
Okay.
Because my favorite from a client, all-time favorite color comment, customers in there, I'm going to say stupid. They're stupid. They don't know. So it's ignorant, which sounds worse, but I know that just means not knowing. Why does the color keep fading off the roots of my hair about every 3 or 4 weeks? What are you not doing right? I said, she thought her hair grew out from the ends. She thought her ends got longer and the color was fading off of the scalp. And I'm not doing a good enough job making the color stay on there. I said, that's new hair. She said, no, my hair's getting longer down here. She argued with me about where her hair grows out. And she's just swearing that the color's fading and I'm not doing a good enough job. Fading to gray. You like that? I'm like, and you can't call a customer stupid right there in your chair, but you have to nicely try to explain that the hair's growing out. Is that ridiculous? Are you on mute? I can't even hear you laughing. Are you there? Color fading on the roots. Anybody else get that? Please tell me in the comments. Tell me the stupidest questions or comments or remarks you've had from the customers that you have to use your poker face and say, well, ma'am, that's not exactly how it works. I know. So I'm going to go on while Eddie composes himself. So then I go into face framing. Framing the face cut from the chin down. So I'm doing some really long kind of, before I get into bangs. I don't want to cut too much out up here. So we do some blending down in the lower layers. And then we start working into the bangs. But before that, I go into a color application with a bowl and a brush because everybody already knows how to do that, how to speed it up, how to be a little more neat, don't have so much color around the sides of the bowl, all up the handles of the brush, how to mix it without just making a sloppy mess. I don't know. That's one of the things I loved about Tabitha Coffee when she was having her TV show. I know she's a little arrogant. A lot of people got pissed off. She seemed a little harsh and mean, but she was neat. She got so mad when they got color on the face, on the clothes, on the wall, on the floors. I was like, you go, girl, right. What? The color is for the hair. Let's keep it on the hair. I mean, if you're going to get it everywhere else, I don't know why people just don't throw it on from a distance, or just turn a bowl over on the head and just mix
It's
it
an
around.
avant-garde painting.
Huh?
Avant-garde painting.
You're right. I mean, that's what they're doing anyway. So why apologize for it and just go ahead and get sloppy with it? Because that's what it looks like. So then we do it with a brush. Then we go into, I mean, some of these things are assumed. You've got to rinse that out. So now the hair's wet. So I keep trying to throw something in that would be while hair is wet, like bangs. So then we go into bang, 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 bang. We're really going to do some bangs, fringe, whatever you're going to call it. Cut baby bangs. Do not blend them with the sides. I want a real hard bang, a little China girl look with not really blending too much because the blend's kind of down here right now. Then we go into a full bang, still not blended. Then we start blending the sides into the bangs. Then I say, you know what, let's take a break. We've done all the different kind of bangs you can do, any kind of bangs you've ever done before. Some people got a big rectangular bang line where the whole top is short, kind of a throwback to almost getting into a mullet where it's short on top and long everywhere else. And then we go to drying towards the face. And that right there, I'd like to stop on for just a minute, because that is a big challenge for a lot of hairdressers, because everything they've done now is they roll under. They get in that with that round brush. They roll in that brush, and now they learn how they could just flip it up now. But you know what? Going towards the front, when Friends came out and Jennifer Aniston had that hair kind of coming towards the front, nobody could figure out how to do that. They're rolling it under and towards the front, and it's curling under. And it's like, no, it's straight and it's just straight and turning forward. That's not rolled under. That's not flipped up. That's taking that brush under the hair and turning it and making that hair turn towards the front. And that's a whole new skill. And I thought I just kind of grew into it. It happened while I was a hairdresser. I guess it just kind of came natural to me. Nobody ever taught it to me. But I kind of remember my boss one time, because I had a job somewhere else in those first 6 or 7 years of doing hair. And he asked me, hey, how are you doing that Jennifer Aniston look? So I don't know. I'm just kind of cutting along there. And then, how are you getting it to style like that? And I showed him with the brush, and he's like, oh. So that's when I realized, like, okay, so some things come natural to some people. Updos never did. But that came natural to me. So now as I'm teaching new stylists, most people can't get it. They just don't get it. They can't just turn hair forward or back. They have to roll it under or up. And so that's kind of shows my worth when I'm teaching somebody else. And I'm like, no, try it like this, like this, like this, like this. We keep doing it. And then they're like, oh. Then they remember me forever, because I helped them get over a hurdle that they may have never got before or through a video. Go ahead. I
have a question. No, I was laughing too much. Did you pass over the braids and I missed the braids part?
So you know what? I don't have braiding on this sheet, but I love braiding. I don't think I do. You didn't get a copy of the sheet, did you? You're in the dark here, right? I didn't get a copy of
the sheet, but I was kind of looking. You know what? It's in the description of the video. I can pull up the video.
Oh, okay. And you know what? The very first week of school, when I went to school to do hair, they started with braids, and I loved them and I did them. I should probably. That's another good point. I thought about that last night. I would love for people to tell me what they would add to this sheet, since we're kind of going through it one by one, because braids would be a great addition. I started off with braids, loved braids. They kind of went away for a long time. Nobody was doing them. I got out of the habit. But lately, almost every day in my salon, one of my stylists is wearing some really nice looking braid. And they're doing it to themselves. But you're right. Braids is a big part of styling hair.
And one of the key things with all of this, when you are all working on your mannequin, especially if you're new, post it up by your station somewhere, or post it up next to your station somewhere visible. Or if you're the salon owner, set up a shelf and display the mannequins there.
Yeah, good point.
It shows work. And clients walking in, what better visual that's something they can touch? Would you rather have a visual that you could touch and run your hands through? Or would you rather have them come in with their phone, and I'm going to start cussing, with their phone and start showing you all the freaky pictures, Yeah, and then if you're a seasoned stylist, right, and you want to try to nudge your client into changing something, you could purposely, specifically get a mannequin that's somewhat similar to your client that you're struggling with, and you can do what you like when we're doing the consultation and you always say, you have hair like this, you should be doing your hair this way. And they're always resisting you. And then for whatever reason, there's always that miscommunication. You can't get through with them. And then they're always complaining their hair doesn't last. It doesn't work. It doesn't, style. Do it on a mannequin. Let them come in, position it where they can see it. And they'll be like, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want. What is that? And you're like, I actually did that the way I've been telling you that you don't listen, Linda, right? Do it like this.
Listen, Linda. I like the braids. I like the braids. Now, I am of the opinion that there are just some things that our license covers that some hairdressers just don't do, just aren't good at, choose not to do, like the updos for me. I mean, most hairdressers are not doing facials and their license covers it. They're not doing artificial nails. They're totally against touching people's feet and doing pedicures. So braids was kind of in that category for me. I thought, you know what? Some hairdressers just are never going to do braids. They don't have the finger dexterity. So I don't cover it in a training as far as like the stuff I put on here, and I do put updos in, even though I choose not to. I feel like everybody should be able to do a basic updo or at least help the other stylists. Like when we're doing a wedding, if we're doing a wedding, I can curl some hair. Like, hey, can you just put this barrel size curl through the hair, all back on the sides, all towards the middle, in the back, to the left or to the right or to the front or to the side, whatever, on the top. I can do that. So I can assist with an updo with some of the preliminary stuff, clean the hair, put the product in. I'm just not going to do that finished thing. And that's kind of where I'm at with updos in my salon and with braids. I love braids.
Stick it with the updo segment. Just glaze over it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So then another blast from the past, and one of my favorite things to do, cap highlight. I teach them how to do a cap highlight. On a guy like me with short hair like this, a lot of guys are starting to get highlights again and to get a whole bunch of little blondes, maybe just to the top and not the sides. It's difficult to foil on very short hair. And you can quickly put a cap on a guy, and not the old-fashioned caps. The caps are just one single layer of plastic, and the needles that are so fine, they're pulling so few hairs through, or bigger. And here's the difference: sharp needle. So the old-fashioned way was a dull needle that was hard to push through the plastic. You're pushing, and by the time it gets through, boom, the momentum pokes them in the head, and that's what hurts. So we actually sharpen our needles on a fingernail file. You can't do the side with the hook. If you sharpen the hook side, the hook disappears. But on each side and the back side, we get it where it feels like a needle, and you're like, whoa. But then you can push it through, and you don't push straight through. You push through at an angle, so when it goes through, it just kind of slides on the head if you touch the head. You do need to touch the head to pull the hair out near the head, near the hole, because if you just pull right out the surface, it might be a hair that originated from the head here but runs across to here, and then you're just getting the tip of the hair. So there are some tricks and tips and I can put a cap on a man or even a woman with short hair or very long hair. The difference is it has to be brushed, detangled, maybe a little gloss in it so it slides next to each other. And I can pull some hair like boom, 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 and just finish pulling it through in like 10 minutes and then put bleach on the whole head or color. And we can do a cap highlight and get some really thin, fine, sun-kissed look, especially today with the don't have to get so close to the roots. I can do a highlight because the fear of caps for a long time, first of all, was, they do that at home. They go buy a frosting kit and put a cap on their own head. The other thing was if you push it through the holes, if you paint it on a little too hard, you push color or bleach through the holes and you end up with spots on the head. So I get the downside of caps. And so you do have to not get it there. And so that's part of my training is how to not push the product through the holes so you don't get spots. And in some cases, stay off the scalp altogether so you can keep a rooted, highlighted, or low-lighted rooted look because it's so popular right now anyway. But it's a fast, easy way. And I know I'm selling it because I'm super passionate about a cap and I get made fun of so often, but I don't care. It's all about the finished result. If I look at a magazine picture that somebody wants and I think, I can do that way faster with a cap and more precise. Think about this. You get all the hair pulled through. There's no hurry on that, although it's fast. Now you put all the product on all the hair relatively fast. Whereas with foils, you start here. And if you're slow, or wherever you start, you're working 10. Even if you're fast and it takes 10 or 15 minutes, where you started has processed 10, 15, 30 minutes longer than where you end. So now you're trying to juggle heat to catch it up, time, different volumes. So there's a juggling act. When you pull it all through a cap, it's all ready. You put it all over fairly fast. You have a much more even processing.
Mm-hmm.
That's my argument for caps. And there is still a place for it. And I know people hate them because it's old fashioned or it's what they could do at home. But just
There's a
giving you my
technique for everything, and there's a purpose for everybody.
So then we go through our bobs. I mean, I say bob. We'll do a bob with a little bit of graduation in the back and then style the back, curled under just to give a good classic looking medium length bob. Next, medium graduation with that medium bob. Then we'll style it kind of straight in the back just to kind of get an idea of just a real straight, no curl. And then we start going into a little bit of graduation, a little bit more graduation, severe, like where it's like way stacked up, maybe even shaved up a little bit on the back of the head, and give it a real, one of my favorite cuts, because most cuts need a blow dryer, a curling iron, a brush to give it some style. A really A-line, long in the front, graduated bob in the back. You can literally get out the shower, shake your head, and you've got a lot of style going on. Although you can, really make it look even better with doing some styling, but you've got the style in the cut. That's why it's one of my favorite haircuts.
Set, man. That's how you know you've arrived. That's how you know you've really got a command of layering and haircutting when you can do it perfect graduated.
It is the most difficult one to do, but the most fun. So I saw a trick one time, and I kind of teach this also for fun, but to take two combs. Have you ever seen this? Where you take all the hair into two combs, lock them together, decide your angle on the back, and use clippers and just clipper all the hair off and all graduate it like that. And because you're pulling the sides all the way around to the back, it leaves it longer already. And I'll do it every once in a while in the salon on a mannequin head or on a client that comes in, and just the hairdressers in my own shop are like, oh, once you understand where hair needs to be to give it a cut, it's easy to do, and you can do so many shortcuts. And then tricks like that are fun because it draws a lot of attention, and that's what gets you customers in the future, gets people talking about you. And now with the power of social media, just take a few pictures or video and pop that out there and help that word of mouth spread even faster. So I like to play with the bobs a lot because they're just so much fun. And then here's where I think a lot of hairdressers really are weak at: texture, all the different techniques, razors, thin and shears. Every hair replacement class I teach, or extensions, I talk about doing some blending with thinning shears, texturizing shears, whatever you want to call them. They're like, oh, I'm just going to do point cutting. They're scared of these other tools. They're scared of the razor, and they're scared of this other tool because it's called a thinning shear. It depends on where you use it, how you use it, the angle. You can do point cutting with a thinning shear and take out even less hair than point cutting, a lot safer, a lot slower, depending on how many teeth and how close together the teeth are on that tool. So there is so much power. And you know where I really became a believer? When I was opening my own salon about 20 years ago, I went to 3 or 4 salons around town with some of the biggest names in my town and got my own haircut, just to experience the salons. One guy, I'll give him a little credit. I give him a lot of credit. His name is Brian Fontenot, and he's got a salon called Attractions in Slidell. And I got to give it to him. Now, part of the experience, I didn't mind waiting, but I was like, wow, he was doing 4 other ladies' color at the same time. And he did my haircut over about an hour. He did a little cut for about 5 minutes, and he left me, go do somebody's color. Then he came back for about 5-10 minutes, and he left me. And that's part of his performance, is the show. But you know what tool he used? Thinning shears, only, for my whole haircut. He never used a pair of scissors or clippers. He just whittled away the sides with thinning shears, and then he worked on the top, and he did a lot of cutting because it took longer to get there. But it was a lot of unevenness. I wore my hair kind of wild and crazy anyway. And I was like, wow, I've never seen anybody do a whole haircut with thinning shears. And it was impressive to me. I use a lot of thinning shears, blending, extensions, and hair replacement, but I had never started and finished a cut with only thinning shears. But I have now.
Yeah, I love the thinning shears. I love the texturizing shears. And it is a show. It is an experience going to the salon and getting a service done. You I use this
It's
expression all the time and it drives my wife crazy. I say, "You don't know what you don't know until you don't know that you don't know." And she's like, "Will you just shut up?" And I mess with her all day, right? The fear of the unknown freaks people
yeah,
out.
it
And it
does. It's
truly
true.
cripples people from expanding their mind and their opportunity. I love teaching with mannequins more than I do with live models. It's not because I'm afraid of doing live model. It's just, in my
It takes
opinion,
fear away.
the live model, all the attention is focused on the live model, not on the technique anymore. All the
I agree.
attention is on how is she going to like it, right? When you're doing on a mannequin, you get to speak a lot more broad. You get to take a lot more liberty. You're not so afraid to do something. And if it goofs up, you goofs up. The best way to learn is to goof, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Darren tells me this advice, and it's a great advice. A professional athlete practices 40 hours a week for a 1 hour game on Sunday. You got to get good.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, so with texture, I mean, I wrote here thinning shears, razor, and other tools. I mean, a lot of people are, especially with the big barber push these days. A lot of barbers are doing whole haircuts, even style type cuts with clippers. They comb it up and
Yeah.
clipper the hair off instead of cutting it with scissors, which leaves a little more unevenness on the ends, which I think looks better than too blunt of a cut anyway. Because hairdressers are blunt cutting or point cutting to get that unevenness. Use a clipper; it'll already do it for you. So I love, but you know what is the biggest secret, or I guess I should say angle, like business angle of this? That's where your signature happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to follow those lines. When you know what you're doing, why, and you're making it thinner in a certain section because you just see it, you feel it, you know it needs to be a little thinner, and you hit it with texturizing shears 10 or 15 times in that area, another stylist can't pick that up and look at it and say anything, actually. They look and they're like, I can't follow this cut. That kind of locks a client into coming back to you because that is your uniqueness, your creativity that is hard to follow. And even on your own cut sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, but I just love texture. So then we go into, in my salon, we go into cleaning the salon because I've got their attention right now. It's like, hey, this is how we're going to clean up after each cut in our area. We're going to shorter layers all over. No solid lines anywhere because we are just going crazy with texturizing. A long flat top, mostly just to show more of a square look and got to get away from, hey, the head's round, straight across. The hair in the middle is shorter than the hair over here and the geometry of it. And they're like, wait, what? I thought it was all the same length. Well, it looks like it, but the head's round and the line's flat. You figure that one out. So I like to kind of do that before I go into some shorter flat tops. And then, like I said, shave the head. So we go into a really short flat top that fades on the side and some ball fades on the sides, and then shave the head. And we already talked about that. Then I go into clipper cleaning. You need to learn how to clean those clippers you just used. Deep cleaning for the clippers where you actually take the blade off if you need to, and how to put it back on and how to line them up so that they're even and cutting the same all the way across. And that can be confusing and complicating for some people. Then I'll start going into basic color knowledge and then how to do a consultation. I feel like the consultation almost should have been first, but I feel like, you know what? If you don't know how to do all this stuff, you don't know how to have a conversation. So let's go through all these techniques. Now, before we move into real people, let's sit down and talk to this person about what they want, how we're going to get there, now that you have most of the tools underneath your belt to get started. I thought that was going to go a lot faster.
No, it's a great list, you know, and that's one of the things is it's the confidence from speaking from your hands versus speaking from what you've memorized in your brains completely translates to the client that you're speaking to during a consult. Yeah. So if you've got the experience, regardless of if it's on a mannequin, the fact that you've done it a couple of times, you've made your mistakes, you've got your aha moments, you've got your visualizations and creative moments out there, you're going to be able, that feeling, that aura that you're going to give out people are going to feel that. That's what makes your consultation way more powerful. I love that you teach the consultation at the end of going through all of this list of techniques first.
Well, good. Hey, I think this is the longest video we've ever done. It's right at an hour, I think, now that I have a clock on my screen.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think we
we're
need
on
to
time.
wrap
Okay.
it up.
All right, guys. Thank you very, very much for hanging out with us. Hit us up in the comments like you always do, and we'll see y'all next week. Thank you so much.
I wanted to add to this list.
Oh, yeah,
Add to
and add
Thanks,
to the
guys.
list in the comments. Thank you.
Bye.